Look, folks, you got to maintain principles, okay? You can't just abandon principles when it's convenient for you or when it fits your political narrative. You can't. Because if you do that, then everything becomes worthless. The whole idea of social media was designed to bring us together, right? Talk to Zuckerberg, talk to the original people at Twitter. They'll tell you the same thing. We want to bring people together so they can communicate freely in the best way they possible. It's a noble idea. So it doesn't work like that. Do you know why? Because everybody from Zuckerberg on over to the people on Twitter and whatnot and Parler or whatever it is, they don't understand one thing. People are dark-hearted. And all it did was drive us apart. Really, that's really what social media is doing. Less people are communicating properly now than ever before. Because you can say anything without repercussion. You can just create up a fake profile. Or you can use a real one and just get banned and restart a new one. Like, what do you care, right? Your reputation doesn't mean anything. This is the premise behind social media scores, by the way, in China. Said, well, we're going to hold people accountable for the things that they say online. Well, I'm a free speech absolutist, right? I think you should be able to say whatever. But I understand people will say whatever. I'm comfortable with that. Sticks and stones. I don't care what people say to me. I don't care what people think of me. I'm going to state my ideas. I'm going to state them truthfully and forcefully. And if you don't like it, go change the channel. I warn you ahead of time on this show. Loudly. This show is not for little children. It's not for liberals who can't handle it. It's not for people whose feelings get hurt. This show is about conservative principles, about the principles of small government. Elon Musk does not share my political philosophy. He has openly said so. He says, I was a liberal not too long ago. He's a classic liberal, right? More like the flower children of the 60s, although he's not that. He's more like that, where he doesn't like government either, but for different reasons. He's a free speech absolute. People say whatever, other than libel and slander, but there are laws for that. We have laws that you can't libel and slander, as Alex Jones found out. You can't attack people personally. You can't say Bob Smith across the street or Joe Blow or John Doe or John Q. Public is a murderer when they're not. You can't do that. And we have laws for that. And that's handled in court. But if you want to say something on Twitter and get in trouble for it, that's on you. That's not on Twitter. Elon Musk is in the process of completing his purchase of Twitter. He believes this. Say whatever you want. Within very narrowest of guidelines. You can't threaten people. As I said, slander and libel or threats. Not allowed to threaten people. And he's going to do what is needed to convert Twitter to that. And Twitter ain't happy about it. Because they're in the Bay Area, and naturally what you hire are young people in that industry, and they live in the Bay Area, and they're going to have very different ideas about speech. Because they can't handle it. They were raised in a house where they were never told no. They were raised in a house where they had the sun shine out of their ass as far as their parents were concerned. They were allowed to get away with anything. They were told, you're entitled to respect. You're entitled to a minimum amount of pay. You're entitled to a job. You're entitled to this and that. Well, once people start to believe that, as this generation is, because we have been told by experts to raise our children like that, full of self-esteem, naturally, when you believe that you're entitled to something, you're willing to step on everybody else to get it. You don't care about anybody else's feelings. And they don't. And they're always the ones that say, well, you need to care about my feelings. You need to care more about your fellow man. I do. I care more about him than you do. I say he's willing to say he's a Nazi or wave the Dixie flag. I don't care. Why is everybody so upset when I say these things? But they're not upset with the liberals always telling me I have to drive an electric car and be a vegan. Why are my feelings not important, but yours also important? I say they're equally important. If you don't want to hear what I have to say, hey, turn me off. If you want to sit there and listen to me and get outraged and write me nasty letters, okay. It's not like I'm going to actually care about it, unless you make a good point. People who make a good point, I listen to. People who just rant and call me names, I just block them. I don't have time, right? If you listen to the show and you make a good point, I just let it go. I don't respond. I usually, okay, you made a point, right? Everybody's allowed to make a point, or I might make a counterpoint or two. That's okay. That's public discourse. I don't care if you hurt my feelings. But most of the people on that side of the aisle have a tendency to do what? Consequences. Oh, you got freedom of speech. There have to be consequences. Well, that's not freedom of speech, is it? If I have consequences, then obviously I'm going to hesitate to say things. Therefore, my speech is suppressed. That's censorship. And if you're on the side of censorship, you're wrong, always. No, people should say what they want. Elon Musk should say what he wants. You should say what you want. You notice that when Musk talks about freedom of speech, he does not say conservatives should be free to speak. That's not what he says. He says everyone should be free to speak. So if I'm offensive to you and you're angry that I'm saying these things, you are free to say what you want too. Well, Tom's a Nazi and he wants to take away my rights of my vagina or whatever. You're free to say that too. Why is it that I'm banned and you're not? Nobody asked that question. How come you can wave the rainbow flag, but I can't wave the Dixie? Well, yours represents racism. What does it matter? Yours represents a behavior that maybe I don't agree with, that I'm offended by, that I'm frightened by. Frankly, some of the letters and emails that I get are frightening. That there are people out there that will talk like that. People about locking people up, throwing people in dark holes. That's a disconcerting thought. What about the DeSantis worker who's just simply going out, knocking on doors and talking about conservative principles and got almost beaten to death for it? You don't think that's frightening to people like me? You don't think it's frightening that there are people out there that think that I'm not worthy of decent human rights and decent human behavior? Damn straight it is. Why do you think I don't want to go into the city anymore? It's concerning. Violence is on every corner. And now it's engaged in political violence. How'd you like to be an Asian person in San Francisco and I see all these beatings of Asian people? And they passed an Asian hate law. Why don't we pass a conservative hate law? Oh, can't have that. Why not? It's just a bad crime. Maybe we should start thinking like that. But then what happens? Everything's a hate crime, isn't it? Now, you treat everyone as an equal. And Musk is going to do what's needed. He's going to treat everyone equally. He's going to allow anyone to say anything within the law. Essentially. I'm guessing, based on what he has said in interviews and what he is saying now. And he says, I'm going to lay off maybe 2/3 of Twitter's staff. Good. I don't know what they do. I don't know how hard it could be to run something that's run by a computer AI. So I don't know how Twitter's run. Why do you need all those people in the building? He's going to make that company profitable. I'll tell you what, I'd like to be an axeman for him. I'd like to have a little office and have him hire me to actually have the interviews of who we're going to keep and who. I would love that job. Because my conversations with people would be very simple, whether you were going to stay or not, whether you were productive. What do you do for the company? What is it that is essential to running our business that you can do that no one else can? That would be the conversation. If you can't answer that, you're getting fired. I know in every job that I did, I had to answer that question on a routine basis. The recruiting job I had to answer that question every quarter. And I would ask people, okay, here's 10 accounts if they were in the censorship department, because I would imagine they have one. Here's 10 accounts that got banned. Tell me why this person should not have the right to say this, and explain it to me. And if you can't, you're fired. And if you can, and you can make the case, maybe I won't. I would love to have that job. Just have that psychological conversation with people. What was your thought process when you did this? How did this increase our bottom line? Because somebody sent out an offensive meme that hurt your feelings. How is that going to help our bottom line? Because he was putting ad money into my business. That's a conversation that needs to be had. I would love that job. Because that conversation needs to be had with everybody, I think, that's between 18 and 34 years old. Because they're constantly asking for more money to do the same job they did 6 weeks ago. How are you making yourself more valuable to me, the boss? It's what every good boss has with any good employee or bad employee. What did you do during this last period of time that helps my business? Here are the metrics. Here's how many phone calls you made. Here's what revenue. Here's your accounts, what you brought in, how many cases that you brought in, how many customers you brought in. Okay, but that's a little below average. So explain that to me. These are conversations that you have. I would love to have a conversation with some of these blue hairs because they all seem to feel that they are owed a job. They're not. You have to make yourself more valuable to me, the management, before I give you more money. What makes you so special? I'm a human being. Well, that ain't good enough because there's a million people that want your job. And maybe they can do better. And if you can't defend what you do at our company, and insofar as making me more money, I'm going to put somebody in that chair who says he can or she can. Good work, hard, honest work is how you build self-esteem. Not praise on people simply because they change the color of their hair or the color of their skin. Let's talk about a little government do-gooding. We'll be right back.